What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Had a few technical difficulties with the YouTube before we got things going, but we are all set and ready to go talking another week of golf here on Drive for Show, DFS for Dough. I am Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84. I have Mr. Notorious, Derek Farnsworth alongside as always. Noto, how you been?
Yeah, doing good. Getting ready to go on a little family trip. So going to be the first time we're taking baby anywhere outside of like our 10-mile radius. So that should be fun. Going to Lake Tahoe tomorrow.
Nice. That should be a good time. We went to did a little like back to school weekend with the kids last weekend, and unfortunately, we were only about 20 miles south of Milwaukee. And if you've seen the news, Milwaukee got about 7 inches of rain. They got flooded out. Brewers didn't even have half their parking available for Sunday's game, even though all the rain was Saturday night. So we were at a concert Saturday night. That only got about half of that in. Then we were going to go to the beach on Sunday. That obviously was a no-go. Ended up just, finding a water park a little closer to home to go to. So navigated the weather okay. And there were certainly some bigger issues than that with all the flooding up in Wisconsin. So anybody that was affected by that, hope you're doing well. And our kids are back in school in 2 days. So Thursday is the first day of school around here. Just seems like that's earlier than it was when I was in school. But I don't know. They build in more holidays now, I guess.
Are they getting out earlier? It does seem like they're going back to school earlier.
Yeah, I think so, because I faintly remember that we always had to go like past Memorial Day, and they get out like a week before Memorial Day. So, depending on snow days and things like that. But it's just crazy to see that it's, August 12th and school's basically getting ready to start. And my oldest is driving now, and it's time goes by. So enjoy the new baby while you can, because I just, become an ATM at this point. But love them all the same.
Yep, that's how it works.
Well, last week we had the first playoff event, and somehow Tommy Fleetwood found another way to not win a golf tournament in the United States. Had a 2-shot lead going to the par 5 on the back 9 with just a few holes to go. Bogeyed that hole. Justin Rose made like 4 birdies in his last 5 holes. And all of a sudden, Fleetwood, after having that 2-shot lead with 3 or 4 holes to go, didn't even end up making the playoff. Justin Rose and JJ Spawn end up in the playoff, and Rose wins it. So if you would have told me coming down the back, 4 or 5 holes, that neither Fleetwood or Scheffler would even make it the playoff, I would have thought that was pretty crazy, but that's what happened. And I don't know. I feel bad for Tommy not being able to get it done again.
So wild. You thought he was out of it, and then he goes on a little run. You're like, okay. My friend texts me, all right, does Tommy have that dog in him? Like, we haven't seen this from him before. And then just couldn't really do anything on those final few holes. The par 5, and then the ugly bogey on 17. And Rose, man, when that guy gets hot, he makes everything. Even the playoff. I didn't watch it live, but I went and watched, all the shots back on Shot Tracker. And how did his one drive end up right next to the water, but not in the water?
Divine intervention, I guess, is like the anti-Fleetwood people.
Shot Tracker shows it bouncing out of the water. I wasn't sure if that actually happened or if it just like curved around the water and ended up there. But it's pretty crazy. He ended up hitting driver a bunch on that last hole.
And so I misspoke there. I said Fleetwood bogeyed the par 5. He didn't. He parred the par 5, but that was basically like losing a stroke. That was the easiest hole on the course. Parred the par 5, bogeyed the 17th, the next hole, and parred the 18th, which he needed a birdie on to make the playoff, and his drive was in the right bunker. So basically didn't have a chance unless he chipped in from off the green, and just kind of, went down in a hurry with Rose making those 4 birdies in a row on 14, 15, 16, and 17. Spawn making birdies on 16 and 17, and then Fleetwood with that 1 bogey. So he's saying all the right things. I mean, credit to him. He doesn't sound defeated or anything like that. And at some point you think this has to wear on a guy, but I don't know. Maybe he's different, and he keeps finding himself in the mix, so he's doing something right, but just can't shut the door.
Yeah, he keeps running into somebody that's like catches fire. They're on the last few holes. Keegan did it earlier this year, and now Rose and Spawn both just went nuts on the back nine. So hopefully he gets it done soon. At least he's competing in like these strong field events and not, I don't know, some of the weaker fields. Maybe he needs a weaker field win to kind of.
That'll be the breakthrough at some point. He'll win the John Deere or something. Rocket Mortgage, one of those events he play in. But in any case, a tough break for Tommy. The top 50 in the standings have advanced to this week. So everybody that remains gets in the signature events for next year. So they've kind of got that part nailed down already. Then only the top 30 at the end of this week will advance to the Tour Championship next week. I'm still not sure how they're handling the format for that because they said they were going to scrap the starting strokes this year. We'll worry about that next week. But 50 this week, top 30 next week. Sepp Straka has withdrawn this week because of a personal matter. So we're down to 49 in the field. He's basically locked up a spot for next week anyways. Any other takeaways from last week's event? Obviously, there was no cut. So, not a whole lot else to worry about towards the bottom of the leaderboard or miscuts or anything like that. But any other takeaways from last week?
Yeah, two guys I never get right. Daniel Berger, dead last, and Cam Young, who continues to crush when I don't play him. So I don't know what I'm going to do with him this week or Daniel Berger, but I'm sure I'll decide the wrong way.
I wrote up Daniel Berger this week, so we'll go down on that ship. We'll see how that goes. We'll talk about him later, of course. But despite finishing dead last, he made it through to this week. He's 33rd in the standings. And we'll need right on obviously the borderline there of being top 30. So he'll need a much better performance this week if he wants to make it to the Tour Championship next week. All right, so let's go ahead and turn the page then and talk about the 49 golfers that we have left for this week. So this is the BMW Championship. This is the one playoff event that rotates courses on an annual basis. Memphis last week is pretty fixed. East Lake next week is pretty fixed, but this tournament has kind of been all over the place. Caves Valley is going to host this year. That's in Maryland and hosted once back in 2021, but was doing some reading on it yesterday. And basically the whole course was changed. Apparently they did not like the fact that the winning score got to like 27 under, I believe last time. And so two of the par fives just magically became par fours. Again, par is just a number, but if you make that change, then the winning score is only 19 under instead of 27 under for 4 days. So two of the par fives turn into par fours. It's going to be a par 70 now. And a lot of the holes were changed, lengthened. The course is going to play very, very long for a par 70, over 7,600 yards. So it will be interesting to see what that winning score gets to this week compared to last time. But one iteration of course history. It was 4 years ago, and the course has changed a lot since then. Probably not something you can put a whole lot of stock into, but what do we know about Caves Valley?
Yeah, I think you covered it pretty well. They replaced all the turfs, so it sounds like it's going to be a lot firmer than it was in 2021. And then obviously they took a page out of TBC Craig Ranch and changing some of the par fives to par fours just to make it seem a little bit more difficult. But yeah, 7,600 yards for par 70 should be a pretty good test. I think the green and regulation rate is going to go down, and the fairways here 40 yards wide. So it's certainly going to set up well for the Bombers, even though there are only two par fives. I was looking, golfers hit driver on 79% of tee shots here in 2021. I expect that number to be similar this year, which is well above tour average. So driver heavy course where you're going to have to hit it pretty far. I think the Bomber is definitely going to have an edge this week. And if you're not a Bomber, you better be pretty good with your long irons because you can have a lot of 200 plus yard approach shots. And yeah, I think it's going to play just a little bit tougher than we saw last year. Like if you take out those 8 strokes from the 27, put it at 19, I would guess 14 to 17.
Yeah, 15 was the number going around in my head.
Yeah, that's what I would guess too.
I think that's a pretty good baseline. Of course, these guys are so good now, you never know. And even the last time it was 27 under was, I just pulled it up, Cantlay and Bryson were both 27 under, went to a playoff. But the third place golfer was at 20 under. So they were 7 shots clear of everybody else in 2021. So we'll see. A lot of unknowns with it this time. with all the changes and the fact that it's been, 4 years, we're still coming out of the COVID pandemic there in 2021. So we'll see how Caves Valley plays this year. I do agree, though. I think it's going to set up as a bomber's course, drivers, long irons, guys that are good with those. And, recent form never hurts. Probably not putting a ton of stock. Guys that maybe have seen it, played in 2021, they played well. You can use that as a boost in a tie-breaking scenario, but it's not. Just be careful if you're going off of history from this event because it has rotated around so much. Just don't take, BMW history as that it's been on this course because it has only been the one time. All right, let's go ahead and dig into it. DraftKings has made the pricing a little tight at the top this week. I can't remember the last time in a limited field that we've had 7 golfers above 10K. That's what we have this week. Now, obviously, we've got the top 50 golfers, top 49 golfers on tour here. So even the bottom priced guys are talented golfers by all means. So it's all relative in the context of this field. Scheffler at 13-4, again, just missed out. He was 1 stroke shy of the playoff last week, finished T3, still hasn't finished outside the top 8 since March, the players. So as usual, let's discuss Scheffler first, and then we'll discuss the rest of the 10Ks. What are we doing with Scheffler at 13-4? And it looks like we got him at about 30% projected ownership right now.
Yeah, it's just hard for me to like my lineups with Scheffler. And another point that Mike pointed out in the chat, he's not going to have his caddy, Ted Scott, this week. So he's going to have a replacement caddy. A lot of people, give at least partial credit of Scheffler's success to Ted Scott. The two are very close friends, and he's always calming him down on the course, helping him through strategy, all that stuff. So I think that could have a little impact. I still don't think Scheffler's going to play poorly by any means, but I kind of like starting a little bit lower. I like the balanced builds. But yeah, I think if you're playing one lineup, I certainly wouldn't knock you for playing Scheffler.
Yeah, I like the value guys a little bit more this week. I think there's, you can make a roster with 2 golfers in the 6Ks. Maybe even 2 golfers in the lower to mid 6Ks. So if I do that, if I put 2 punts in there along with Scheffler, I've still got 8,000 on average for my last 3 spots, which I think is fine. So again, the context of Scheffler for me is just how I like the lineups I can build around him. I think I'm a little more comfortable with that this week than you are. So for that reason, I'll probably be, 40% or so on Scheffler. So a little bit over the field. Just because I like those value guys just a little bit better. And then, I'll probably be underweight on a decent chunk of the rest of this 10K range. Not that I don't like these other guys, but just the way it seems to be coming together this week. So
no worries about Ted Scott.
It's a concern, but the guy's a robot in my opinion. So yeah, does it take him down a stroke somewhere or something? Does he make maybe one mistake? Yeah, I don't know. It's a secondary concern for me. I don't want that. I don't want to overthink that. I tend to overthink things too much, weather and all that. So with Scheffler, maybe it'll end up backfiring, but I don't want that to be the reason I implode not playing him at all. So it'd be a tough call for me if I had to make like one roster. Do you start in the 10s and maybe get 2 guys there, or do you start with Scheffler? Like that's the conversation, because if you want to go like Scheffler Cantlay or Scheffler Fleetwood or something like that, you're really scraping. You're under 6,700 for your for 4 spots. So it is tougher to do that. I can see both sides. I'll probably be a little bit overweight on Scheffler. We'll see where that ownership goes. Any other thoughts on him?
Yeah, good on paper. Just like my lineup's a little better without him. So I'll have some, but it'd probably be underweight.
All right, so if we're starting in the next range, you got Rory at 11-4, Xander at 10-5, Fleetwood at 10-4, Ludwig at 10-2, and Cantlay at 10-1. With all the tags in the lineup HQ this week, lots of colors on Cantlay, which is first time in a while. We've both got him tagged there as well. So Cantlay is obviously my favorite starting point if you're not starting with Scheffler. But what are your thoughts on the other 10K plus guys here?
Yeah, I wrote up Cantlay on Scores and Odds, and I was in my little write-up. I wrote that he loves money, and our editor Andy didn't know what that meant, so I was explaining to him how he wanted to boycott the Ryder Cup, and he didn't wear a hat and all this stuff. And he always seems to play his best during the playoffs when you obviously win the most money. So I do like Cantlay. Gained 6.4 strokes ball striking last week. Obviously won here in 2021. And he's just solid all around. So I like him at 10-1 as a starting point. I think Ludwig's interesting. I don't play him a ton. He's not a guy that projects all that well for me because tends to be up and down, but I like him on championship level golf courses. And I think this is kind of one now that they've made the renovations to the course. So I like Ludwig and Cantlay the most. Don't know how Tommy's going to bounce back. I don't trust Justin Thomas's driver at this course. And then Rory's fine. I think Rory could be a very low-owned play if everyone's playing Scheffler, or maybe nobody's playing Scheffler now that I don't know. It's always hard to know when something like that comes out. Does everyone overreact and pivot to Rory, or does everyone not react and just play?
I mean, Scheffler? I think Scheffler will be a little bit lower, relatively speaking, but not much. But I mean, maybe he's 2 or 3% lower because people get a little nervous.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think Rory's an interesting play. I don't have a ton of Xander or JT, but yeah, I like Ludwig and Cantlay the most.
Yeah, Ludwig, I think, is really interesting if you want to play that bomber angle. Cantlay won here, obviously, in 2021 when the tournament was played here. I think he maybe even projects a little better with the new way the course is set up. He'll be higher than 11% owned. I'll tell you that. I think he'll get steamed up more than some of these other guys up here. But I'm nervous about Fleetwood just because I think that mental roadblock has to affect somebody at some point. All those close calls and coming back the next week. It's not like he's had a couple weeks off. So probably under on him this week, under on Xander. I'm okay with Rory as a pivot as well. But Cantlay will definitely be my favorite additional option above 10K, and agree that I'm pretty much out on Thomas right now. As crazy as it sounds, I think I'd rather play Cam Young if you're playing the bomber angle with the way he's been putting and the way he's been playing, and especially if he's only 6% owned. We'll wait and see what Noto says since he can't get Cam Young right, but I don't mind that play this week. With the way that he's been golfing. So he leads off the 9Ks. Where do you stand on Cam Young and the others in here?
Yeah, it's a tough range for me. So I'm playing the bomber angle. I got to go against my projections. If I'm not, then I'm playing some of the shorter hitters like Henley. So I don't know what to do here. I don't think I'm going to have a ton of exposure if I start like with Ludwig and Cantlay, that I'm probably dipping down to the next range anyway. But this is the time where guys get hot and stay hot. So I don't mind Cam Young. I'm probably going to pass on Henley and Morikawa. Henley just a shorter hitter. Morikawa, he's been off for a while. T22 last week, but he kind of fell apart a little bit over the weekend. And then I do have interest in Ben Griffin at 9,100. I kind of put him in that same mold as Russell Henley for some reason, but he's actually 15th in this field in driving distance over the last 6 months. So he can get out there. Henley's almost dead last, and Ben Griffin quietly has picked up some speed over the last year or so. So I think he's interesting in 91. And then, yeah, not a whole lot of interest other than Cam Young. So if you're thinking about playing Cam Young, just don't do it.
Yeah, Griffin was the other guy I wrote up at this top end. If you look at, so I pulled 36 rounds of data. He's third in total strokes gained, 14th off the tee, 11th on approach, 19th around the green, 4th in putting, 9th in ball striking. So top 20 on this field of 50 in every category over the last 6 months or so. And like you said, a little more distance than some people think. He's been super consistent outside of that, 2-week hiccup that he had. So Griffin and Cam Young, I think, are my favorites in this 9K range. Tried Hovland last week. Probably out on most of the others in here. I'll be going down into the 8s, but Griffin at 9,100, I do have quite a bit of interest in. So, and Straka was priced at 9,000, but it has withdrawn. So make sure you're not using him in your lineups. How about Spawn, man? That's another guy that just kind of keeps on chugging here over the summer. He's just had quite a few upside finishes. Doesn't ever seem to look the best statistically, but it's a lot more upside than he used to have.
Yeah, switch to that lab putter, and all of a sudden he's winning tournaments and contending. So he's been great. I don't think I'm going to have much this week, but yeah, he projects fairly well, even though he's kind of overpriced.
All right, let's go ahead and move down into the 8K range. Oh, by the way, that reminded me. Yours truly here was leading the snake draft all week. I checked after Thursday. I checked after Friday. I checked after Saturday. I was in first place the entire week. And then Sunday, the last hour fell from first to third. So the prototypical NFL team was in first for 59 minutes and then gave up a last-second field goal because I had Fleetwood on the snake draft team, which collapsed at the end. So I finished like 3 points out of the cash zone on the snake draft. So we donated once again in the snake draft. It's not going to take us a long time to get through this with only 50 golfers in the field. So we'll see if we can get one, once we get down to the 6K range, we'll try to get one loaded up. But usually those, for whatever reason, we were traveling over the weekend and we're in Wisconsin and you can't bet in Wisconsin. So I was following the DFS app a little bit more and was following the snake draft and laughed about that when Fleetwood tossed it away there. So we'll try again this week. All right, let's move into the 8Ks here. Matt Fitzpatrick leads it off. Again, we've talked about this over the last few weeks. Continues to play solid golf. Did dip a little bit last week to T32. Just couldn't get 4 good rounds put together there. Matsuyama, Keegan, last week's winner, Justin Rose, is up to 8,600 this week. Chris Goddard coming off his first bad week in a while. Corey Connors, Harris English, Bobby Mack, Sung J M in this 8K range. So you're probably, like you mentioned, going into this range, if you're starting with 1 or 2 guys in the 10s, your third golfer is probably coming from this 8K range. Who's standing out to you here?
Yeah, some interesting options here. Chris Goddard up if you do want to play the distance angle. Second in the field in driving distance, first in strokes gained off the tee, and first in greens and regulations. So it's going to be kind of a difficult course. You got to think Goddard up's going to be in a good spot at 8,500. Does look like he's going to be kind of popular, but I'm okay eating that chalk. I do like Corey Connors in that same price range at 8,400. He struggled a little bit last week, T50, but he gained 5 strokes on approach. He's played 3 tournaments since he withdrew from the U.S. Open with a wrist injury, so I'm not too worried about that. And then if you think it's going to be like a tough course, U.S. Open style course, then Harris English makes some sense. He kind of let a lot of people down last week with the T48, but he loves long, difficult courses. So I like those 3 in that 83 to 8,500 range. Other than that, probably nobody else for me. I might have a little bit of Fitz. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm okay with a little bit of Fitzpatrick this week. After the T32, maybe a few more people start to kind of drift away a little bit. Like Connors as well. Sprinkling in these guys. The Goddard call I think is really interesting. After he finally had a week where it didn't all go his way, so we're pretty much in alignment in this tier. Not a lot of or a single kind of must-have guy, but Fitzpatrick, Connors, Goddard. If you're playing the getting hot and staying hot, Rose, probably not going to have too much there. But and then you just go down in the 7Ks at 7,800 and do the auto lock Harry Hall every week, like I've been doing all summer, and you take your top 25 and then you just you take it to the bank. So let's see, T22 for him last week. Did have a rough Friday round, which kind of knocked him back a little bit after a really good start, but he was still third in the field in putting for the week. As usual, every week Harry Hall just does it with the putter, and again, I'm not fighting it until he gives me a reason to fight it, and the guy's finished inside the top 30 10 tournaments in a row. So Harry Hall at 7,800 kind of feels like your cash game staple. And other guys in that range, I think, are going to project, maybe just as well as some of these guys in the lower 8s. So I like getting into this range, especially in those Scheffler lineups. Harry Hall, Kitayama's been playing well. I know there's a few people that like McNeely this week. So all those guys are in the 7Ks. I think you could even maybe make a case for Lowry, but as usual, Harry Hall is my favorite once again. What say you about the 7Ks here?
Harry Hall, once again, negative 4.2 ball striking last week, plus 6.7 with the short game. It
sounds about right.
Automatic. So yeah, this is not a course that I think would fit his skill set, but he's going to do it anyway. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Ricky Fowler's been playing pretty well. I don't know if I'm ready to buy in, but he gained 8.4 strokes ball striking last week, finished 6th. He has top 20s in 4 of his last 8 starts. So 5 of his last 9, actually. Maybe Ricky's back.
Yeah, quietly coming around.
You'd love to see that. It'd be cool to see him back at East Lake for the first time in a while. The model likes McNeely, like you mentioned, solid all-around golfer. And then Kitayama's been really good with the ball striking, even after his win. He followed it up with T31 and T9. He's gained at least 3 strokes ball striking in 5 straight events. So he's a guy that's won a signature event. He can play well on these more difficult courses thanks to that ball striking. Those 2 are probably my favorites, but I might end up having a little bit of Ricky.
So there's the PGA Tour put out a chart of the minimum finish needed to potentially get to 30th. This obviously depends on what everyone else does, but Fowler's at 48th right now, so he needs at least a solo 13th to have a shot, to have any shot. And I presume that would be solo 13th plus a lot of other things breaking the right way. So any finish better than that would help his chances. So he needs to go low, needs to play aggressive, which I don't mind taking some of those guys that have to do that. And, some of them are going to crash and burn, but you maybe get a few more birdies out of it, and guys might outscore their finishing position for fantasy points if they're making a few more birdies. So for what it's worth, that's what Fowler needs at minimum. I don't hate that call either. Pendrith, again, if you want to play the distance angle, would be another guy to look at in this range. I'm on board with that. But mainly Hall, Kitayama, and McNeely, I think, in this range. And they'll probably be some of the more popular options. I get a little bit different with some of the guys, I think, in the 6s. And we're still not talking super chalk here. I mean, even with Hall at 17% or Kitayama at 22%. I mean, we got to remember there's only 49 golfers too, not 100 plus. So there's plenty of options down here that aren't going to be like 40% owned. All right, before we talk about the 6K range, let's go ahead and try to fire up a snake draft here. So again, if you're new, we go to DraftKings, we go to golf, we go to snake, and we find a 6-man. There's already 3 out of 6, and I don't recognize any of the 6 or any of the 3 of the 6. And the $10 one is also 3 of 6. How you want to handle this?
Yeah, let's just do it.
Do the one that's already got 3 in it?
Yeah.
All right. So only get one friend to join us this week. So hurry on over to the $5 6-man snake if you want to get in. All right. Let's talk punts here as, again, even though they're in the 6Ks, it's not like they're the worst golfers on the planet. They're still among the top 50 in the standings. I mentioned I wrote up Daniel Berger last week, dead last. If you go back to like March and April, like May, even the tee to green, he was like leading this field in tee to green. Obviously, he's not there right now, but he's min salary on FanDuel. He's 6,800 on DraftKings. I like Berger. I think Bud Cauley is really interesting as well as another guy that can maybe get something done with the short game. So Berger and Cauley are the 2 guys in the 6Ks that I want to highlight, and they are both bare minimum on FanDuel. So that type of pricing, FanDuel's pricing is really, really soft this week to where it's going to be super easy to get Scheffler in. It's a little bit tougher on DraftKings, but I like Berger. I like Cauley in the 6s, who are some of the guys that you don't mind punting with.
I thought for sure you were going with your guy, Ryan Fox, at a Bombers course.
I can do that too, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good news for you. I'm not playing any Berger, so he'll probably do much better this week. And then I told you last week my hit rate with Sam Stevens is like 100% this year because I played him maybe 3 times and didn't play him last week, but I'm playing him this week. So one of the few guys that I get right more often than not. 6,500, plenty of distance off the tee, likes long, difficult courses. He's really the only guy in the sixes that I like.
All right. So Berger, Cauley, and Fox will probably be in my player pool. You don't want to go too crazy by like playing everybody down here, but and I don't mind Stevens either. I saved him for you because I saw you had him tagged there. So those 4 of the 15 or so that are in that range will be in my player pool. All right, we're still at 5 of 6 on the snake draft, though. I did just post the link in the YouTube chat, so if somebody wants to join that, if we somehow get nobody to join in the next couple minutes, we can just skip it for this week, but figured we'd throw it out there since we had some time with the smaller field. And let's see, 6-man snake draft, and everybody drafts 7 guys. So we'll draft 42 of the 49 that are available. And then next week, they won't have these. It'd have to be a 3-man snake because there's not enough golfers. So when are you leaving on your little trip?
Yeah, fly out tomorrow, fly back Saturday. So quick little trip. We'll see how it goes.
Fingers crossed that works well for you and you have some nice late summer weather. All right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this still seems stuck on 5 of 6, so we don't have to stick around.
Okay, sounds good to me.
We'll cut it. We'll axe it for this week. All right. Quick and dirty show for you tonight, breaking down the BMW Championship. Next week, we'll try to uncover some betting angles, stuff like that. We got to figure out the format this year because they are apparently not using the starting strokes for the Tour Championship. So only 30 golfers. Won't take us very long next week either, but we will bring you a show for that. We'll figure out the format as we get closer. So until then, we'll call it a week here for you. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes for us. Thanks to Noto for joining me. I'm Justin. Hope you all have a great rest of your week. Stay cool out there, and we will catch you next week. See you, everybody.